Hello, this is Jackie B. Peterson. I am your host today on Solo Pro Radio. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my work, which is I'm the author of Better, Smarter, Richer, 7 Business Principles for Solo, Creative, and Encore Entrepreneurs. It is my passion in life to help people in solo careers and solo work be more financially successful. What I have learned over my years as a business consultant is that solo businesses are distinctly different from traditional businesses, and there are some things you simply must do to be successful as a solo. I've also learned that 99.9% of business advice, where you pick up a book and read and say, I need to learn about this, assumes that you are building a traditional business, hiring employees and turning yourself into a manager, as opposed to making money hands-on doing the work that you love. So check out my website, bettersmarterricher.com, and order the book and work the work in the workbook. You know, it's full of good questions for you to ask yourself so that you can make some changes in how you're structuring your business so that it will perform the way that you want it to do. Today I'm going to be talking with Linnea Osterberg. Linnea is an award-winning photographer who attended Smith College and later earned a master's degree in child and family counseling from Lewis and Clark College. She uses her educational background to help her gain the confidence of children who invite her into their world. That's so important. Her mission is to create photographic portraits of children that capture the essence of her subjects while radiating their innocent beauty. Hello, Linnea.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you. I'm such a fan of yours. So, Linnea, tell us a bit about yourself, like where you're from, what brought you to Portland, where you went to school, you know, all the basic stuff about you.
Okay. I grew up in Fresno, California, and I graduated from high school and went back east to Smith College. And then when I was back in Fresno, I decided to come up to Portland to go to graduate school at Lewis and Clark. And I earned a master's degree in child and family counseling while I was there and started my photography hobby, which upon graduation turned into my business and my work. So now, nearly 15 years later, here I am doing my passion.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Did that surprise you that something that had been your hobby was turning into your means of support in your business? Had you expected to go into, child counseling?
I intended to be a child and family counselor, and I had wanted to learn photography. Well, I wanted to learn photography for a long time, but it never fit in my schedule with things I had to take or had to do or whatever. And when I finally was up here in graduate school, I was able to take a class at the community college simply with the intent of learning how to make some nice photos. It wasn't even in the back of my mind. It wasn't even the furthest thing in the back of my mind that this might be a career for me. But my interest in it grew and grew and grew, and sort of all the stars aligned, and it was definitely the right thing for me to pursue upon graduation.
Oh, that's so fantastic. And I can almost see that you're learning the photography and then thinking, okay, how can I use what I've just spent, 2 years getting my master's degree in? How can I use that and my photography together? And I mean, is that what happened when you decided to focus your career on, what you call meaningful portraiture of children? It just kind of came together and you thought, I could work with kids. I know a lot about kids.
Well, I'm not quite sure about that. When I was doing my class at the community college, when I was in school, I did a lot of babysitting, more along the lines of nanny type things, and I would practice each week's assignment on the boys that I took care of, and I didn't really piece any of it together in terms of what my official education was and this photography stuff that I was becoming interested in until after I had started, actually, and I found myself showing up at sittings to photograph people I'd never met before, but able to make a connection with the kids within just a few minutes. And that is what I learned, or that's what I took from my graduate education to what I do today. I walked into this career very well versed and educated in how to let, in essence, let the child come to me and let them open up on their speed rather than, okay, here it is, it's time for your photos, now start smiling this way and do this and do that. I don't approach it that way at all.
Wow. So it kind of all of a sudden maybe slowly you were getting this aha that you could get the kids to respond when you worked with them and were doing your practice photos, and you thought, wow, maybe there's something here because the kids are responding to me. I've seen you at work, with my grandchildren, and it's
right.
truly amazing, They love working with you, and pretty soon they're telling you what their dreams are and what their thoughts are and what's going on for them. I mean, you have a tremendous gift, Linnea. And,
thank you.
And all the time you're taking pictures, and you get these absolutely fabulous pictures. So
thank you.
When did you decide that you were going to go, focus totally on children?
Well, on children, that was kind of, I don't know, I think that was sort of it from the outset, really. Even though I say I wanted to learn how to take a nice photo, I really wanted to learn how to do portraits. And maybe that's even more too official of a word. I just wanted to be able to take some nice photos of people. That was certainly my interest. And the kid part of it was just always, I don't know, I don't even know that it was actually like a decision where I sat down and said, okay, who am I going to photograph? It just was such a natural transition or part of it. It just was obvious to me, I think. I don't remember really making a decision. It was just that's what it was.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Be.
That's really fantastic because certainly this is a place where you've built your name. So it just unfolded for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
how
true.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So what do you think distinguishes your photography business from that of other children's photographer? What if we were talking and, someone said, I want to get some photos taken of my children, the old sales question, why would they choose you? What distinguishes your business from other child photographers?
Well, there's a number of things I would say. Certainly what we just discussed about my ability to connect with the kids. I don't know how many of these situations other photographers have, but I do find on a regular basis prospective clients call and say, I have a kid who's very nervous or very shy or only does fake smiles or whatever the situation might be, and are seeking me out for my ability to get a portrait of those kids that is not showing the anxiety or the shyness or the fake smile. So I definitely have particular skills in that regard. I also made a decision in the very beginning, this was a decision for sure, to photograph in black and white pretty much exclusively. I find that when you look at a black and white photograph, you see much more of the person and the emotion as opposed to a variety of colors popping out at you right away, and that's what you see. So in addition to the skills I have with bringing out kids, I suppose what they've really got going inside of them, the black and white adds to that because then you can only see what those emotions are. You don't see green grass and a red T-shirt and green shoes or whatever the case may be. So I think those two things are the most obvious to someone who might see my work somewhere. And then there's other things like I photograph with film and specialize in hand-done portraits in the darkroom, which is very, very rare these days.
It's not done much anymore, is it?
No, it's really, really not. And I have, from the first phone call until the client is walking out the door with their order, I do quite a bit of hand-holding in terms of, we meet before the sitting so we can get to know each other a bit and I can understand what they're looking for and also better understand, like I mentioned earlier, the special situations that might be involved with personalities or different ages and get a good feeling for what I'm walking into and how I can best serve the client. And then once we have proofs back, then we sit down together again and go through those proofs together so I can help the client with my eye point out what I see and help them select portraits that are a good combination of their child's expressions and personality showing along with a good overall photograph itself. And then even after the person has left with the order, I do a follow-up again to inquire about if they have any questions or if there's any other concerns they have. And I also am happy to help people hang their portraits in their house too if they're trying to add to a family portrait wall they've already got, or they've ordered a number of portraits and don't quite know how to hang them so they look the best. So there's quite a bit of customer service that goes into my work with people.
Oh, that's fantastic. That really is fantastic. It's not, you are the total opposite end of the spectrum from catch a little snapshot. You're,
Yes.
really thinking about the child. You're thinking about the situation. I know that you go to people's homes and you go to parks and you try to get them in natural settings. And as I say, I've seen you at work with my own grandchildren of how you get them relaxed and talking to them. And it's not a ploy. I mean, I think you really enjoy talking with the kids.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, and because kids can tell that, if it's just some patter that you're giving, they're going to play right along and give you that kind of patter back, whereas what you're doing is you are sincerely interested in them and, what's going on for them in their lives, what they're thinking about, what's happening. And it doesn't take them too long to figure out that you are genuinely interested in them, and that's why they open up to you. And, I mean, you're just really good at that. And it sounds like you also have a whole system for working with the parent, the one who's going to pay the bill, but working with the parent and making sure that they're happy and that they understand and that they get what they're looking for and that you help them choose the right picture of all the ones that you've taken and, on and on. So I'd say you have a pretty good system going here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So I would say that's a lot of what distinguishes your business from others in the field. And I love it that every place along the way, Linnea, you call it a portrait. I'm the one that's calling it a picture. You're calling it a portrait.
Yes. The words you choose to use for your business are exceedingly important, whether it's describing your product or I don't know, even your tagline or your, I don't know, like even I call my office my studio. And it really is in like the dictionary definition of the word an office, because I don't photograph here. I meet people here to look at proofs and plan sittings and pick up orders and that kind of stuff. And I do my paperwork and stuff here, but I call it the studio because it, just the same thing as saying portrait. It's the kind of aura, that's I can't think of a better word than that right now. It's what I want to portray. Like, this is an artist you're hiring, commissioning, and that person works in a studio, not an old office building on the highway type of thing. So I think vocabulary or word choice selection is really important for, I would assume, any business,
and
I would think particularly solopreneurs.
I love what you said, too. You said that they're commissioning an artist, okay? When, someone hires you to do a portrait of their child, they're commissioning an artist. And the way that you do your artwork, is with black and white photography on film, because, as you said, you feel like you get more focus on the child that you're presenting, and not all the color to, pull the eye away from them. And I think you've told me before that you get more light and shadow. Is that what you can do in your black and white and film? Get more light and shadow and expression in the black and white?
In the dark room, with certain in the dark room, there's certain papers are better for that kind of stuff than others, and all of that kind of detail stuff is after I see what it is I need to get printed, then I figure out exactly what the best approach is going to be, so the person ends up with the best print of that negative that they possibly can.
That's great, because so much, there's been such an explosion in taking pictures, which is not what you're doing. You are creating portraits. Such an explosion in taking pictures with everybody with a little cell camera and, tiny little cameras. I mean, there's hardly anything that goes on that isn't recorded on a picture somewhere.
True.
And that's not what you're doing. And I know you've had a conversation with me more than once about you're not doing machine prints. These are portraits.
Right.
Oh, that's lovely. Exactly. That's lovely, and how wonderful for the family of these children, to get to commemorate in a way and remember in a way, their children and their growing up and who they are, because they travel through such a journey as they grow up and, different phases of their childhood. And you're capturing that. That's pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, lately I've been thinking quite a bit about how these images are going to be viewed in 20, 30, 40 years by these kids as certainly adults, parents, maybe even grandparents, and what it's going to be like for them to have portraits of who they really truly were when they were 7 or 8, not, in some special outfit that they didn't wear every day, or with their hair done in something that wasn't how they wore it, or having to, put on a happy face if that's not where they're at right then. And I certainly wish that I had that to look back on, and I don't, which is a shame. But I'm excited for these kids that they will have that.
I think that's going to be interesting when, they're old enough to have children of their own. If they, come back and say, this was so important to me, I want to make sure that I do, the same thing for my children and give them the same kind of gift. So you are constantly thinking of the legacy that you are leaving for them. Wow, that's big work. That's really big work. And, what I've said about your work before is that you catch from children kind of an expression or an idea of who they are going to become. And I've seen you do that more than once, where you can look at a child's portrait and kind of see who it is unfolding. And, who as they bloom, who is that they are coming to be. And I think that shows in your photographs. It's really wonderful. So let's talk about the business of your wonderful business. I know you're most definitely a solopreneur, a one-person business. So do you find that's a beneficial way to be in business? Are there benefits to you being a solo, and how does that work for you?
Well, so I started out as a solo and had a couple years in the middle. So my business is 12 years old now, and in maybe years, 6 and 7-ish, I had somebody working either, full-time or close to full-time, like in the 30-ish hours a week or 40. And I found that it really does suit me better to do it on my own, particularly now that I have a family of my own. I find that it's easier for me to keep track of what I need to keep track of and not have to manage another person and make sure the work is done correctly and on time and all of that stuff. So I'm more efficient when I can just, be a solopreneur is what I've come to terms with, or come to realize. It's not really come to terms with. So I like knowing, I really like that I'm the only person that interacts with my clients. And I really like that I know everything that's going on. I want to be involved in the whole process for them. And if someone else is sort of okaying prints that come back from the darkroom or helping somebody select a frame or an image or something, then I don't feel like they're really getting the whole deal, because if I made the portrait to begin with, then I sort of can see the final product in my mind, and I don't feel for me that I can provide the level of service I want to provide when I have someone else doing those parts of my business for me. So I'm back to solopreneur, and it's been working great for a number of years again now.
Oh, that's wonderful. What a great learning experience. So the whole world pushes people all the time to, hire employees, create jobs, all these sort of things. And I think I myself am quite a bit like you in that I kind of like to be in charge of my own destiny, doing my own thing, have my own hands on it, and outsource is what I do. And I say I don't mean outsource to Pakistan. I mean hire a person to do some aspect of something that I need done. For instance, in my case, I have somebody that does all my social media for me, and thank goodness. And, that actually writes some articles and blog posts and things like that for me. I like that. And
I do do that kind of stuff. There's a couple of projects I work on each year, a couple times a year, that are not particularly personalized, and I have somebody manage all of that stuff because I don't have any particular insight that anyone else doesn't have on that stuff. And I do think that having someone to help you out on those kind of stuff, those kind of projects, is a great idea, because then I have the energy to focus on the stuff that does require me, rather than, in the case of my particular project, it's filling out forms and order forms. And I would rather spend my energy working with a client making a fabulous portrait for them than filling out order forms at midnight the night before. So
Amen.
Knowing when to say when, I guess, is a good skill to have, whether you want to hire employees or not.
Yeah.
So.
And I I'm such a believer that when you make that decision it's a big crossroads, and if you make the decision to outsource, in other words, you hire or contract with another business person, basically, who has their own little business and will come in and do work for you, either as, a writer or a virtual assistant or a webmaster or a PR person, or, I keep saying it's a business-to-business relationship, and in a business-to-business relationship, you are somebody's valued client. They love you. But when you're their employer, there's just kind of this hierarchical thing that happens, and the next thing you know, it kind of feels sometimes like you're pushing string uphill. And, you kind of have a hard time motivating people, and you think, wait a minute, this is crazy. How come this happened? And they're just part of this project. It's a strange relationship quite often. So much better if you contract with a business to do these services for you. That's my finding.
Well, I'm
the queen of solopreneurship.
And in my case, since I don't have any desire to create a chain of portrait studios or something, I always want to be doing what I'm doing right now. So I don't see, since I don't plan to keep growing and hiring and hiring and hiring, I just don't see the value in, like you were just saying, having this employee and managing it.
Mm-hmm.
I turned into a manager, and that just wasn't the job I wanted to have. So
yes, that's exactly what happens. Exactly. I mean, it's not because you wanted to become a manager. That's what happens. When you have somebody working, in your name, you've got to direct what you want them to do, because otherwise they're doing it for them. It's really amazing.
Right.
Yeah. So, have you found that being a solo has given you some flexibility? Say, like when you were a new mom, did that give you some flexibility being a one-person business?
Yeah, I definitely. Thinking back to the days when I had my full-time person. Well, my business is very seasonal. So at certain times of the year, it's a no-brainer about you come in and you work and work and work and work, and then you go home. But at other times of the year, you come in and you think, okay, so, well, what should I do today? And, you have a lot more choice. So not needing to figure out a schedule for someone else to follow, because in their mind, they're showing up for a job. They sort of want to be told, here's what I'm supposed to do. They're not invested in it as, okay, how can I work today to make this business successful? They want to come and do the work and leave. So I am very grateful I did not have that weight on my shoulders when I was, on maternity leave and just coming back to work. I don't know how I would have managed. I don't know how I would have managed that. It would have been just too much.
It really would have been. Yeah, I think solopreneurship really does give people that kind of flexibility for, big changes in their lives. And as you probably know, I'm promoting solopreneurship for many of our encores. People 50 plus are starting businesses in droves. And I keep saying, if you come forward with your business as a solopreneur, it gives you the flexibility to put a lot of time into it or a small amount of time. And, you can make it seasonal yourself. You can say, hey, I want to spend my summers doing something other than working like crazy on my business, and I'm going to be more busy in the fall. So, and I can do that with a solo business, whereas, you just can't do it that well if you've got employees and they want full-time jobs, not part-time jobs. And, you find yourself working to keep them busy instead of doing what you love, which is, I think, why we're in business, is to bring to the world what we love. Yeah. So do you think that being a parent with Willie has made changes in how you approach your children, that you're doing portraits of, or?
I don't know if it changes how I approach the kids all that much. I feel like I had a lot of training and skill in that regard prior to being a parent. So I don't know that it changes that, but it definitely changes for me. I don't know if it changes on the outside, but it changes in my mind, my interactions with the parents. Like, I used to really not understand at all. Like, if somebody is always 10 minutes late, why don't you just leave 10 minutes earlier? And when you have a baby, you just can't necessarily do that.
Yes.
And I'm much more cognizant of things I ask people to do, like, but we have a discussion about clothing and prior to a sitting and what might work best. And so sometimes prior to being a parent, I really never thought all that much about it. Like, well, okay, I'm supposed to wear a solid colored shirt. Okay, great. But now I can appreciate, well, all the solids were dirty and the plaid one has a stain and this one. Okay, we'll settle on the one with the hearts. Like, I can appreciate that now, and I really didn't to the same extent before. So I think the whole parenthood thing has changed how I view the parents as opposed to the kids.
And maybe I don't know if this is true, but maybe it gives you a bond, for speaking with them as well about how important the portraits are, and in your own life. So what a thrill it is to be able to track changes and growth in your child, and just like they want to do in their children. And it probably helps you build a rapport with them, which is nice.
Oh, I think that's true. I think there's more credibility.
Yeah.
Whether there should be or shouldn't be, I think that there is. I remember, before I had a child, I sort of resented in a way when people would say or insinuate, oh, you don't understand because you don't have a kid. And I would think, well, of course I understand. Like, I understand they're tired and they're hungry and they're this and they're that. But I really didn't understand it until I was in those shoes. So I think that, and I can also understand, people have over the years expressed anxiety about, like, I once asked someone, a client who had boys, why, if she had any ideas about why it was that I photographed more girls than boys. And because I think it's probably a little bit different now, and I don't know if that's because I have a boy. I really don't know. But I used to photograph traditionally 2/3 to 3/4 girls. And so one day I asked this gal with 2 boys, why do you think that is? And she said, my kids have so much energy and are so sort of unpredictable in terms of how willing they are to cooperate that day, if they're going to jump out of a tree the night before and cut their face. Like, she said, I can't predict what's going to happen with my kids. And I'm, certainly there are girls that way too, but she thinks that mothers of boys are just a lot more leery of setting up, okay, at this time on this day, he's going to do X, Y, and Z while the photographer comes over. So I just can, I think, relate. Well, you're a mother of boys, Jackie.
Yes.
I'm
laughing. You can't see me laughing on the radio, but I'm laughing because, yes, I would say that same thing. They just weren't as predictable, and it's also that same thing of all that energy. And, in fact, I always told people that my theory of raising my sons was keep them running, because they had so much energy to spin off. And, if you didn't use it in a way that was constructive, thank God for sports, they were going to get into trouble with it. And very much so. And, now I've got 2 little girl granddaughters, and it's different. It's very different.
Yeah.
One of the things, you'll laugh at this, Linnea, because, maybe you don't notice this with the boys and the girls that you photograph, and you'll probably never hear this from your son, I don't know. But both of my little granddaughters, I choose carefully what earrings I'm going to wear when I see them because they notice.
Yeah.
I'm not sure my own children ever noticed, but both of these, girls notice. And, they notice if I've got new earrings or new shoes or new something, and I think, oh, my goodness, well, I've got to be careful here what I'm going to do. But the boys never did.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Right.
It is funny. It is funny. So talking about your business some more, what do you find the most difficult about being solo?
The most difficult is when I do have jobs that someone else could do, like running some errands or addressing some mailers or something like that. Since I don't have enough hours to keep somebody busy on a regular basis, pretty much every time I want to hire someone to do that, I need to find someone different. Because, so a lot of times right now the projects are 2 or 3 hours and they're appropriate for, like a teenager could do them. So right now I'm not having too many troubles, but I do wish that I could, can't imagine what position this person would be in, but have someone who was, available Monday through Friday from, 9 to 4 and didn't, have to earn any certain set amount of money and was reliable in XYZ, but, that's not how it works. Yeah. So I think that's the drawback for me is when I do need help knowing how and where to find it quickly. So it's going to work out for everybody. Yeah, I can understand that. So let's move on to marketing because I think you're absolutely an amazing marketer. So talk to us. How do you find your clients? Well, I do displays around town. So I was given the advice one time, pretty much anywhere someone waits is a good place to have a display of your photos. So coffee shops have been a great place for me. Doctor's offices. I've had, shows at banks and churches and schools and, anywhere really that has or is willing to display art. And I've started leaving a little ballot box at these locations. Some places won't let you do this, but the places that will, I leave a ballot box with a little tablet to sign up to enter to win a free sitting, and so then I get names from that and can add those. Of course, there's someone who gets a free sitting, and then also I can add those emails to my e-newsletter list so I can keep those other people in the loop. Yeah. So the displays are a great way. And I've had really good success. I've certainly had glitches, but overall really, really good success with donating to auctions for schools or organizations. And then repeat clients or referrals, either way. Those are the main ways I've had business over the years. Well, that's good. I think you've done a wonderful job of doing that, and I always ask people about scaling their business, but let me ask you: Are you doing anything? Don't you have a grandma project going on right now that is kind of a bit of a change for you? Do you want to talk about that? Sure. I do have a special project in the works, and it's similar to my regular work, but very different. So what it is I was very close to my grandma, and when at the 1-year anniversary after she died, I wanted to do something to help myself, really, to mark the anniversary. And I had realized over the course of the year that she had been gone that I don't really have a photo of she and I together that I just really, really love. Like that, I have plenty of photos of us together, but nothing that is just the one. So I decided I wanted to photograph a number of grandmas with their grandkids. And so I set out last spring, about a year and a half ago, to do that. And I had a show of the work in September, and I had photographed about 45 grandmas and grandkids for that. And I found myself enjoying the project so much and really being able to use it as a marketing for marketing because it was easy to talk about to people, and it was a good lead in to what I do and just to be able to tell people about my business. That I've continued to work on it, and now I'm close to 70 grandmas, and I'm still going strong on it. So that has been a good thing for my business and a good thing for me personally, and that's one of the best things about working for yourself and I guess being a solopreneur too is you can, tweak what your business is going to be this year or that year to fit where you are in your life. And this grandma project
you've
has really
just
been
said it so eloquently. One of the main reasons to be a solopreneur, you can tweak what you do this year or next year to be, to fit where you are in your life. Such freedom, such freedom. So, you went out and did something to honor your relationship with your wonderful grandmother, and, it's wound up being a fabulous way to market and a fabulous way to get new families knowing about your business and, seeing the way that you work with the children, and wow, that's really kind of cool. It's really cool.
It's been great, yeah.
And I'd like to say, as marketing, as I say, I think you're an amazing marketer, and this is, being creative like this and coming up with this kind of a project is just a fabulous thing to do. So I've watched you be very creative about, what you have done to market, and I think that what you're talking about, hanging your portraits anywhere where people wait. You've been at doctors' offices, coffee shops. I know you've been in banks. I know you've been in some shopping centers, and that you've been very good about doing that and showing off your work all over the place. And I think it's just been absolutely fabulous. I think you've also done a very good job of taking good care of your referral sources and taking care of your repeat customers, and that, you've paid attention to them and, talked to them and stayed in contact with them. I've seen you make a great effort to do that, and I think that has paid off as well. Are some of the grandmothers that you've photographed out of, grandmothers in your, your base, your client base of repeat customers?
You were gone for a second. Can you repeat that?
Sure. Are some of the grandmothers that you have photographed, are they grandmothers in some of the families where you've had a longer-term relationship?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say most of them. I don't know, at this point it might not be most because it's been going on for so long that in the very beginning, most everyone I photographed was someone who was already a client, and now it's there are plenty of people who aren't, but that's certainly where I started. And then they've told their friends, and there's been several press things in the media about it, so that has helped to expose my work to a wider variety of people that I wouldn't have been able to reach otherwise. And that's one of the good things about doing a project like this too, is there's a reason for somebody to write an article about what you're up to, which is a great thing for a small business. Yes,
it is. A reason for press is always a good thing for a small business.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you my question, being that we're a Better, Smarter, Richer, so you participated in a Better, Smarter, Richer study group. Did you find that helped your business?
Definitely, because each week that we met, I had a specific topic or area of the business or my approach to the business to concentrate on and reevaluate, okay, here's where I want to be in this regard or with this activity or approach or whatever, and here's what I'm currently doing, so why are those two things different? How can they be more similar? So it really helped to keep me on track, which I think, especially after having been in business for a long time, it's good to reevaluate and make sure you're still, doing the mission that you set out to do.
Isn't that the truth? That's really the truth. So, Linnea, there's just many, many photographers. Do you have some words of wisdom and advice for others who are coming into that profession?
Let's see, words of wisdom. Well, I would say be true to yourself, really. A lot of people say, oh, photograph weddings or headshots or this or that, whatever it might be, or kids even, to, keep money coming into the business between the jobs that you really want. But I would be leery of that advice because the longer that you keep doing those jobs you don't actually want, the longer you aren't going to have the business that you want. So I know that there's pressure and stress to keep money flowing, but I would really evaluate those kind of side jobs very carefully.
Amen.
And I would also start, I think it's very difficult to start out at a certain price point and realize that you don't want to or can't afford to keep working in that level. And then you change your prices and have to start with a whole new clientele. So I think that starting out, certainly as you have more experience, you will raise your prices or change your offerings or what have you. But I think it is really wise to do the math and some soul searching about what it is you want from your business and what you want and need to earn from it, and start out somewhere price-wise that is appropriate for those goals. Because otherwise I think you just have to keep starting a new business, which is kind of a bummer.
That's such a good way to say it. That's such a good way to say it. It's if you start at too low a level, and I think many, many creatives and solos do that, they start at a low level and then they set an expectation. And as you said, when they finally figure out that they can't afford to live at that level and they have to raise their prices, it's tantamount to starting a new business because you have to break into a whole different level of customers. I'm going to quote you, Linnea.
All right, you do that.
Because I talk to people all the time. I give a talk called How to Charge What You're Worth. And I think it's so important for that. So let's get back to the parents who want to create a photographic record of their children and, portraits of their children. What should they look for in a photographer? And, what questions might they ask? How would they find a good photographer?
Well, I think certainly it has to do with the photos and that they resonate with you, on someone's website or out and about, wherever you might be exposed to them. But beyond that, I think that you really need to feel comfortable or some level of rapport and trust with the photographer, or that you're, getting what you want, in terms of, for my business anyway, it is quite an investment to come work with me. So I would suggest to people to make sure they feel that what they're going to be investing in this project is that they feel they're getting enough hand-holding and that they're going to get help, throughout the process to make sure that basically that the value is there for what they're putting into it.
So in other words, don't just look at the photos, but talk about their process. How do they work with you?
Yeah, what So what happens at, so I'm, interested in working with you, what's going to happen. And a lot of times how that comes across is people call and say, I really like your photos, how much is an 8x10? Simply because they don't know what else to say, and they know that 8x10 is a size that photographers sell. It's not even indicative of them wanting an 8x10 or needing an 8x10 or anything to do with 8x10s, just that that's the only language they really know to ask about. So, I would ask, well, what's going to happen and how's it going to work, and, and make sure you feel comfortable with the person is what I would say.
Wow. So we're about out of time. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and as I said at the very beginning, I'm an admirer of your work. I think you do fabulous work, and it's just been great to talk with you. And hopefully some of our listeners are interested in what you've had to say and in contacting you. So how can our listeners find you? And are you limited to Portland and Northwest, or do you recommend other photographers in other parts of the country? And how can people find you?
Sure.
Do a little marketing for you.
My website is a good place to see some of my work and get a feel for what it's like to work with me from a client's perspective. And my website is osterbergphoto.com. And I also have a Facebook page that has, my newsletters and things are posted there, so people can see more up-to-date, more recent information about what's been going on at the studio the past few months. I work primarily on the West Coast. I work a lot in Portland, and I certainly have done sittings up and down the coast, and I do enjoy a good photo trip. In the fall, my grandma project is going to be up back east in western Massachusetts, so I'm looking forward to that, and I've got some sittings scheduled in and around Boston while I'm going to be back traveling. So that is exciting, and I am definitely interested in work that is not based in Portland. And if you are in Portland, you can see some of my work this month at the U.S. Bank in the Pearl District, which is at 11th and Lovejoy. And there's on my website there is a list of different locations around town that are showing my work. So as you're out and about, you can take a peek. And certainly emails and phone calls if people have specific questions about my business or my work or anything. I'm happy to talk with them about whatever it is they're interested in.
And if somebody's a grandma and would like to get in on the grandma project, are you still taking grandmas?
Yes, I am. So the grandma project is, there is a whole section of it up on my website, and I would love to include more grandmas. At this point, I don't really see an end to it. I don't know exactly what form it's going to ultimately take, or I don't know. I'm still waiting to figure that out. But I still am interested in photographing grandmas with their grandkids. And if people are interested in that, I would love to hear from them and see about arranging something.
Cool. And they just go to your website, osterbergphoto.com. Great.
Right, yeah.
Well, Linnea, I have loved talking with you. As I say again, I'm a fan of yours. And so I appreciate your sharing information about your background and your business with us today. And listeners, I hope that you will tune in again next week to Solo Pro Radio and join us for another great conversation with one of our very successful solos, whether they're a young solo or an artistic solo, creative solo, or an encore entrepreneur. Solopreneurship, I think, is the business model for the 21st century. And this is Jackie B. Peterson. I'm the author of Better, Smarter, Richer, 7 Business Principles for Solos, Creatives, and Encore Entrepreneurs. And I do hope you'll go visit my website as well, bettersmarterricher.com. All the radio shows are posted there for the last 2.5 years, actually. So you can, they're archived. You can take a look at them or take a listen to them, I guess it would be. You can also download the free ebook, which outlines the 7 principles of Better, Smarter, Richer. Or you can buy my book, Better, Smarter, Richer. You can download the book. You can download the book and itself and work the exercises. And in the book, it's a workbook. You can join one of our study groups. We'll be holding our next study group. It's going to begin at the Portland Community College Climb Center on September 2nd. You can also sign up for our free newsletter and join the very active conversation on the blog. So thank you again for tuning in today for a great discussion, and I'll talk again with you soon. Goodbye.